Now, recently I built a new off-road electric skateboard, and this is what it looks like. So it's based on the previous design that I built about a year ago that I then used to tow that car. And this one's a lot better, so it's got much bigger wheels, better tyres, it's got an entirely different drivetrain, a different motor, so it's a lot better in pretty much every single way, especially in terms of the reliability. However, it's got one problem, and actually this problem is not unique to this particular skateboard. This is a thing that you have with any other electric skateboard too, which is that it's not that great if you actually want to move stuff around. And of course, you know, you can hold a bag or like wear a rucksack or maybe even stack things between your legs on the deck, but there isn't really a skateboard on the market that is designed for hauling around cargo. So I thought to myself, how about we change this? And given that I have a fairly large American audience, according to YouTube statistics, what better way to do this than to build the world's first, at least as far as I know, pickup style electric skateboard. So the basic plan is quite simple. We just have to build some sort of truck bed, and then we attach this to the back of the skateboard. But there are a couple of interesting requirements that I have for this. First of all, I want this thing to be able to carry very heavy things. Because, really, if it can only carry lightweight goods anyway, then why bother? If you might as well just hold it in a little bag or put it in a rucksack, you don't need this whole pickup truck thing. So, in order for this to make any sense, it needs to be able to carry things that you absolutely wouldn't want to be carrying yourself. So that's the first thing. It needs to be really strong and handle things that are really heavy. Secondly, I want it to be removable because this is going to make the skateboard significantly bigger, so it's going to take lots of space when I put it in the shed. We don't want that. I mean, it's kind of the problem with real-life pickup trucks as well. You buy this truck that has this huge cargo bay at the back, but then people end up driving around most of the time without anything sitting in that truck bed. So we want to avoid that problem by making this thing removable, so that if you don't need to move around stuff, you could just remove the whole thing and just use a skateboard the way it is right now. So with that said, I think it's time to get into the shed and actually build this. Okay, so as you can see, I've turned the skateboard upside down for a moment, so I can take a proper look at it and show you what I'm going to do. So right here at the back of the skateboard, this is where we need to attach our truck bed, but of course it needs to be removable. So the first thing we need to do is make some kind of receiving end on the skateboard that will interface with our removable truck bed. And so to do this, I'm going to weld on a part that looks kind of like this. So this is a little cardboard model that I've made. It'll be made out of steel, of course, for the real version, and that's going to be welded onto the back of the skateboard, just like this, onto the frame. And then the truck bed will essentially have a male version of this, so that it can hook into this, and that way you'll have your swappable truck bed. So what we need to do is, first of all, we need to fabricate this part, and then we can weld this thingy onto the back of the frame. So here's our new part that we've just made. So now what we need to do is we need to get this welded onto the frame of the skateboard, just like this. So in order to do that, I want to take this frame off of the skateboard first, which means we're going to have to undo these 4 bolts, so that way the rear axle with the sprocket and the chain can all come off. Then we'll need to undo these bolts that hold the motor unit in place. And then finally we can undo these nuts over here, and then we should be able to detach the frame from the deck, and then we can weld this thing on. Alright, so now that our frame has been modified, the next thing we need to do is actually build the cargo bed itself, starting with the part that's going to interface with this new coupling, I guess, that we've made. I'm not sure what to call this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this flat bar that I have, and we're going to cut some bits off of this that can slide in here, just like this. So I think we're going to do one on this side, one on that side, and then an extra bit that sits in between them, and then on that we can weld the rest of our frame on that's going to carry the eventual cargo bed itself. So now we've ended up with these two lovely things, and these are going to make up the frame, on top of which we're going to put our little cargo box, you know, truck bed thingy, kind of like that. And so now we're going to weld these two onto the little coupling that we just made here, just like this. However, there's a bit of a problem, which is that if I just turn this on its side, you might be able to see this, it's not entirely straight. So if you look here, if I just hold it like this, you can see that if you compare this line to this line, it's sort of pointing towards the ground a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind off a bit of this over here so that it kind of compensates for that angle, kind of like this, so that it's all straight before I weld it in place. Okay, so this right here is our cargo bed frame, almost entirely done. So we can now take this, we can see if it slides into the slot on the frame. So there we go, just put it in like that. Very nice. So as you can see, it fits rather well. It's also pretty straight now. It's not entirely, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close, I would say. It's good enough. So it just kind of looks like this sort of weird forklift style contraption now. Maybe one day we should make an actual forklift add-on for the electric skateboard as well. That'd be quite funny. But for now, what we're going to do is first of all add some extra bits of metal to this to make it a bit stronger. And then we're going to drill some holes in this so that we can later on mount some sort of box on top of this. Here is an old plastic bin that we had laying around, and I think it is the perfect size and shape for us to use as our new truck bed. So now what we need to do is just drill some holes in the bottom so that we can fit it onto the new frame that we just built. So we've got the plastic bin sitting on top of the frame that we just built. As you can see, the holes are lined up, so we could now bolt this in place, but I'm not going to do that because first of all, I'm actually going to paint this frame and also the frame of the skateboard. Then we're going to put everything back together, and then I'll bolt this bin onto it. Alright, so there it is, the electric skateboard pickup edition. Now, as you can see, I'm going to be one of those YouTubers who's holding a microphone on video. I'm not doing it for aesthetic reasons, right? This is because it's very windy out, and otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear me, so you have to deal with it for a moment. So, yeah, I'm really quite pleased with the result. You can put all kinds of stuff in this bucket, whether it's wood, a case of beer, bags of sand, pretty much anything that can physically fit into this box. It'll carry more than that will fit into this box actually, because that steel frame is really quite strong. Now of course the box itself is a bit wobbly because it's made of plastic, so you do have to pay some attention, like when it comes to centering the load properly in there. But as I've said, you know, the frame below that is super strong, so it can carry heavy stuff without any problems. And of course it is fully removable, although it's also sort of heavy and difficult to do that with just one. There you go, fully easily removable. And that's not only nice because you can use a skateboard without this box, but also you can still use the box without the skateboard, so that's all pretty good. Now actually what I think is perhaps even better about this project than, you know, the cargo truck bed itself is this coupling that we made here at the back, right? This is the real game changer, because think of all the other possible things that this allows me to attach onto the back of the skateboard. We could make all kinds of weird stuff and put it on here, maybe some sort of trailer that it can tow. Who knows? So if you have suggestions for other weird things that we might put on the back of this skateboard, please let me know in the comments. Now before I end this video, I know that some of you might be wondering, did you try fitting the homemade switched reluctance motor as, you know, the power source of this electric skateboard? And the answer is yes, actually I did. That was the original plan, to power this with that motor. So I put it on here, and actually it did work. It was able to move the skateboard. It was also just about able to move the skateboard with me sitting on it, but it got stupidly hot. So it could barely move the skateboard, but it could not move the skateboard when going up a hill or ploughing through some sort of rough terrain or anything like that. So I decided to remove that motor again, and I went back to an old school BLDC motor, which I've got over here, combined with a Vesk speed controller that I still had laying around, and that performs really quite well. But I do think that in the future we should try to swap out this motor again for something homemade. So I think I'm going to try and make perhaps like a better version of the homemade switch reluctance motor. But yeah, for now it's working well with a regular BLDC motor, but I did actually try it with the DIY one. Now I think that is all I wanted to say for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching it. I've surely enjoyed making it. If you like this sort of thing, or perhaps the other types of videos that I make every now and then maybe consider subscribing to this channel. And all that's left for me is, of course, to say thank you very much for watching.